Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kathy Kiley. I'm with Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, and we're here for the bidders conference for the Laboratory Support Services RFR that MassDEP Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup has posted. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you have any issues with seeing it, please let me know, but we'll do that now. Can everybody see the presentation?
Yep, we can see it. I can see it.
Thank you. This presentation is being recorded, and I just wanted to go over some general tips for using Zoom. I know we've all been using it now for quite some time, but still wanted to remind folks, please mute yourself unless you're asking a question. If you have a question during the presentation, if you could put it in the chat, that way we can make sure that we get it answered during the presentation. There will be time at the end to answer any questions you might have. As I said, it is being recorded, and we will be providing a link to this webinar, as well as the PowerPoint and the question and answers on the Combis website for this bid. And if you could also leave your name and email in the chat for our record, that would be helpful as well. Thank you. So before we even get started, I did want to say that the RFR is going to be amended. We realized after it was posted that somehow during that posting process, the section numbers got messed up, for lack of a better term. And so it will be reposted with the correct section numbers. So you want to make sure that it will be posted by January 21st. And you want to make sure that the version you're using does have this cover page. It has a highlight that says this amended RFR supersedes the original posting that was done on December 21st, just in order to correct the section numbers. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. There's no other changes to the wording in the document, just the section numbers. So today, we're going to go through the overview of the scope of services, what's going to be entailed in the contract itself, go through the requirements for the submission of a quote, and then talk about the selection process and award of contract, and then have an opportunity for questions. So this contract is for, in order to develop a master list of laboratories that MassDEP can enter into direct contracts with directly for analytical services. It's also, we'll have a list of labs that the SARS contractors will be required to use for any projects that we're assigned to them. And the ER/IRA contractors will have the option to use labs from this list as well. The RFR also has, provides the link or provides the Combis numbers so you can see what labs are on, what contractors are in each of those, the SARS and the ER/IRA. So we use various methods to ensure that the labs are able to provide the services we need, and things like the certifications, following MassDEP's compendium of analytical methods. There's also an opportunity for MassDEP to review proposed analytical and QA/QC protocols and methods on a case-by-case basis. So we are going to be looking for laboratories that they must be certified for potable water. They have to be certified under the National Environmental Lab Accreditation Program, use the CAM methods where applicable, and allow MassDEP or its contractors to perform on-site evaluations, reviewing personnel, procedures, facility equipment, sample login and tracking procedures, QA/QC, etc., if desired. Also, one of the things that we're looking for, there's been a lot of work done with PFAS and it's continuing to evolve. And so we want to ensure that the labs will be working with the department to ensure appropriate methods and QA/QC procedures are implemented for PFAS as the EPA methods are promulgated and as the CAM protocols are also developed in the future. The types and lists of all the analytical services that we are looking for are provided in the attachment B to the RFR, which is that pricing Excel spreadsheet. So labs will generally follow the waste site cleanup guidance, which is 10-320, the compendium of quality control requirements and performance standards for selected analytical protocols. There's a link provided here. It's also provided in the RFR, and the combined target analyte list for MCP analytical protocols. Again, a link is provided here. It's also provided in the RFR. I want to back up and say too, the analytical services generally are to support the projects being conducted under the MCP. There are some projects that may be done to support solid waste regulations or even other bureaus as well. So, but we have in that Excel spreadsheet, you'll see a wide variety of analytical services that we'd be looking for. So labs will be required to follow the most up-to-date version of the analytical methods and procedures, either EPA methods or the MassDEP TAL, comply with DEP's certification and operation of environmental analysis regulations where applicable. We also present in the RFR our requirements that we're looking to make sure are included in any laboratory reports. To have a case narrative, analytical results, chain of custody, sample integrity documentation, QC results, and where applicable, the MassDEP analytical protocol certification for CAM protocols. I want to get into the overview of the contract. It is following Mass Procurement Law, MGL Chapter 7, and the regulations 801 CMR 21 for goods and services. The number of awards, we're going to be selecting multiple laboratories as I said, to establish a master list of qualified labs that can be used by DEP personnel directly or used by DEP's SARS contractors or the ERIRA contractors. It is a fee-for-service contract, so you'll only be paid for the services you provide. And the duration of the contract, the initial duration is for 3 years, and then there'll be two-year options to renew. So therefore, the contract will have a maximum of 7 years. And the estimated value of the contract over that 7-year period is $400,000. Want to go into a little bit about the quote submission. It is being done on Combis. The RFR was posted on December 21st, and the bid numbers presented there, BD 22 1045, 69538 is the important number. If you ever want to search for the bid, that's a way you can do it. You could enter in the bid number and it should pop up. The deadline for submitting questions is next week, the January 14th by 5. And most importantly, the deadline for submitting the quote is February 11th. It's a Friday at 4:30. And in Combis language, that's referred to as the bid opening. And I want to bring that up because still different terminology than maybe a lot of folks are used to, but that's considered the bid opening, is the day it's due. Now the calendar is presented in the RFR, but it's presented here as well, just so you can see it here again. We're having the conference today, the bidders conference on the 6th. The questions, as I said, next week on the 14th. Now the answers, as well as the bid amendment, will be posted by the 21st. And those will be the official answers. We may provide some answers today, but the official answers would be posted in the posting on the 21st. And again, the deadline for submitting responses is February 11th. Then we'll take some time to review the responses. We expect to notify successful bidders by the end of March and enter into contracts during the month of April, such that we'd be able to start the new contract by the end of April, April 29, April 30. So the actual submission itself of the quote, this is a summary. It's what's also provided in the RFR. And so we're looking at 8 sections to submit. Section 1 is a cover sheet. We'll go through these next in a little bit more detail. Section 2 is the laboratory experiences. Section 3, the lab quals. Section 4, the management approach. Section 5, the reference form. It's 3 references. Section 6 would be the pricing, submitting the Excel spreadsheet. Section 7 is the required Commonwealth standard forms. And Section 8, which would be the Attachment A cover sheet. Attachment A is the supplemental terms and conditions that, together with the RFR and the pricing and the all the contract standard Commonwealth contract forms, make up the contract documents. So just to go into a little bit more detail on each of these sections, the cover sheet essentially is just providing information about the company itself. Name, phone number, address, primary point of contact. If you're proposing a subcontract, a subcontract laboratory as part of your bid or quote, you would also provide that name in this on this sheet as well. And also 8 and 9 are just some additional questions about whether your company is currently working for the Commonwealth, and if so, what contracts. And question 9 is maybe you don't have a current contract, but you provided in the past, say 5 years or so. Then you would put that information in question 9. So section 2, here we're looking for a narrative, giving us the lab's experience in providing analytical services for MCP projects and solid waste projects, limiting to 4 pages. Section 3, getting into the laboratory quals, copies of your current certifications and permits, and then a letter stating that the lab will be certified for the potable water for the analysis. If you're doing the potable water analysis, be certified under NELAP, use the CAM where applicable, allow us to do that on-site evaluation if needed or required, and work with DEP to ensure appropriate methods for PFAS as the requirements and methods and CAM protocols evolve. And we're also looking in this case for the quals is a copy of the lab's quality management plan. And given the size, there's a good chance it might be too big to include, in which case you might have to either condense it or provide a link to the document. That would be perfectly acceptable as well. Section 4, providing the lab management approach. This, again, is a brief narrative. Provide an organizational chart, the approach for how you'll manage and provide the technical services and the administrative requirements for this contract. If you have an electronic portal for to allow us to retrieve the data, please provide a description of that here. The point of contact, if you are going to be providing or established team for subcontract for some of the services, you can again provide that here. And we're looking again to limit this to only about 4 pages. Section 5 would be the business reference form, 3 references, and those forms are provided on the Combis page for this bid. Section 6 is pricing. And again, this is in an Excel spreadsheet, and we're looking for you to complete the spreadsheet, and you'll submit this as a separate, as a standalone Excel spreadsheet. And you'll see in the RFR, we talk about the naming. It would be your company name _ pricing. Just to give a little bit more of a description of what's in that Excel spreadsheet, we are looking for you to submit, complete all the pages, and each of the pages or in the worksheet or in the workbook is it is a tab, and it's the one tab is the cover sheet. Another is surcharges for turnaround time or a more involved data delivery package. Then we get into the various analyses, the disposal characteristic analyses, organic analyses, which includes a whole section for PFAS, inorganic analyses, drinking water, general chemistry, air analyses, and then we have a page for other analysis. And this might be something that your firm provides, maybe another that is unique to your firm, or you would want to highlight, you could provide that in there. When you're completing this, we want to make sure that these unit costs that you're putting in here are inclusive of all of the following information. So it's all wrapped into one cost: sample bottles, coolers, preservatives, chain of custody, labels, any dilution that's required for the method, batch canister certification for certain air sample methods, sample disposal costs, courier, level 2 or CAM data package, and electronic data deliverable if it's something that you provide. That's all factored into the cost you'll be providing. Just to give you, this is just providing 2 little examples of what's in that spreadsheet. The surcharge page here, we're looking at if you provide a surcharge or charge a surcharge for turnaround time of 24, 48, 72 hour. We also have 5, 7, and 14 day times down here so that you can annotate which is your standard turnaround time. And then recognizing that the PFAS method often has greater than standard turnaround time, please note what your standard turnaround time is for PFAS at this point. And then there's also a place to indicate a surcharge for the actual data delivery package if it's a much more involved, like a level 4 or a CLP type deliverable, what that surcharge might be. The bottom excerpt from the spreadsheet just gives you an example of what for example, the organic analysis page looks like. So you have the contract code, you go from volatile to semi-volatile, and then the actual description of what the method would be. Volatile organics, for example, can analyte list water, 5 mil purge, what the actual SW 846, 8260, and then we have 3 columns here. Under 20, meaning less than 20 samples. If you have a cost for less than 20 samples, the cost for providing, if we're providing greater than 20 samples, and if there's certification for that particular analysis. So the section 7 in the submission is the Commonwealth standard forms that are required to be submitted. And again, refer to the RFR section 10 provides, and section 11 provides a detail on these various forms. The Commonwealth standard contract, the request for taxpayer identification, which is a W-9, the contractor authorized signatory listing form, the supplier diversity program form number 1, which is the commitment, and the prompt payment discount form. Things you're going to want to that you'll have to include in this section. Section 8 is the cover sheet from attachment A, the supplemental terms and condition. And this document provides information about record keeping, invoicing procedures, insurance, conflict of interest, and actual project initiation as well. So you would need to submit the cover sheet and signed and a conflict of interest disclosure statement. Now the process for submitting the quote, again, the deadline is Friday, February 11th at 4:30. Everything has to go through Combis. So as a vendor, you'd have to be registered in Combis in order to be able to submit a response. And all the instructions are for how to respond are also presented in the RFR section 11, appendix 4. I would suggest if you haven't worked in Combis before that you submit it earlier than Friday. In case you run into some questions or problems, you can reach out to the Combis help desk, and they'd be able to, answer any questions specifically that you might have about Combis or the procedure for submitting a document. Once it's submitted, we'll be going through reviewing all of the quotes. We have a team made up of a number of different personnel. We call the strategic sourcing team, specific for this RFR. It's made up of DEP personnel and our contractor. And we'll do initial screening to make sure the quotes are responsive and complete. And then those will move on from that to the more involved review of the technical and management experience and capabilities. We'll be looking then at your qualifications, capabilities, references, etc. Then we'll also look at the pricing. We'll look in detail at what you're providing in that spreadsheet. And then there's also a separate supplier diversity program evaluation that takes place by the department's supply diversity program. So they'll review that and then give us the score. And that, so that folks are aware, it's written in the RFR, but it is worth 25% of the overall scoring. Then we'll make a recommendation and for the contractor selection. Again, the contract itself, we're looking at multiple awards to have that master list of qualified laboratories. The contract will run for a base of 3 years with two-year renewal options for a total maximum of 7 years. The pricing is going to be in effect for 3 years during that base period. And then there'll be opportunity to renegotiate costs and pricing at that contract renewal time. Those adjusted prices would then be in effect for the next 2 years of that contract renewal period. It is a fee for service. Also want to remind folks to review the supplemental terms and condition. As I said, it describes the record keeping, invoicing procedures, insurance and conflict of interest, and as well as the project initiation information. So my contact information is here. I am the procurement contact for this RFR. My cell phone is also provided. We are working a hybrid work schedule, so I wanted you to have both the cell phone and the email. Email is the preferred contact, but you can always reach me via the cell as well. Since it's posted, we can answer questions that are general in nature, or that don't have to, if you have a specific question about the wording, things like that, you can also put those, submit any questions that you have through the ComBuy's question and answer bid tab to ask those questions. But I want to open this up now for questions that anybody might have on anything that was discussed during the presentation, or if you have a specific question about the RFR. Just remember to unmute yourself and then you can ask. Well, I'm not hearing any questions. I'll stay here if for a few more minutes here, if people think of questions, but you're certainly welcome to put any questions. There aren't any in the chat either. So again, I would just say submit the questions through ComBuy's. By end of next week, we'll have the answers posted and that amended RFR up the following week by the 21st. And then we're not able to answer questions after that time period, unless it's a procedural question like, how do I do this in ComBuy's, or who do I get in touch with about ComBuy's? So if you have any question, it really needs to be submitted by next week. So thank you all for coming and putting, oh, I did see there's a question. What's the process for MassDEP to enter into direct contracts with the labs? Is it a rotation that are included in the contract? So all of the labs would be on the general master list. And then as DEP projects, come up where we are doing the work and need a lab for a particular project, we look at, we look at what's being requested. Sometimes it's where the work is being done, factor in the costs, the capability and such. So it's not necessarily a rotation of it, but we factor all those into selecting a lab for the specific analysis. There's another question. Well, there's a question that Gary is asking that talks about that's saying this section that's being referenced, 1.2, 1.1, is actually, you'll see this, the reference number will change with the amended RFR, but the wording though is that the question is that bidders cannot propose additional or different subcontracting language, but later sentences appear to state that bidders or contractors may propose non-conflicting contractual language on a case-by-case basis, and referring to attachment A, article 2, negotiating terms and condition may be allowable. What I'm going to my answer to this is going to be that I'm going to look into this to make sure that I'm understanding the question you're asking. Is it seems like we're not clear and that we may be in conflict with what we're saying in one place to another, but we'll provide a final answer for that on our question and answer when we post those by the 21st as well. I don't want to misspeak and give you the wrong answer. We'll also have our legal folks review it to make sure that we're consistent and that we're not providing any incorrect information to you. Any other questions from anyone at this time? Well, if there aren't any other questions at this time, I just want to thank you all for coming today. It makes it easier, I guess, virtually. Appreciate you attending the conference, and I look forward to getting all of your submittals. But again, we'll post the answers to the questions that were posed today, as well as questions that come in to the Combis bid directly. Those will all be, the answers will be posted by the 21st. Questions are due by the 14th. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Kathy.